Yeah, man, we back at it. It's unit 2, chapter 1. We still in the Kohanology. We're still doing the numerology, right? Number 2, 3, and 4. So you see in 222, 333, and 444. What does that mean in Torah? We're finna get all in it, man. All in it. First, let's deal with number 2. If you're seeing 222, one of the best numbers to see when it comes to your benefit. 222, 2 represents the basic balance of life. So we're talking about masculine and feminine energy. We're talking about the sun and the moon. We're talking about Yerek and Shemesh, or what the Chinese would translate that to yin and yang, right? Yin and yang is the Chinese for sun and moon. Sun and moon is just masculine and feminine energies. We're talking about the heaven and earth. We're talking about land and sea. We're talking about day and night. We're talking about good and bad, right? That's the basic balance of life. So 2 could represent balance. But 2 could also represent what's really good is production or reproduction. Production or reproduction. And I'm gonna tell you why. Well, simply put, how many people did y'all put in the Garden of Eden to begin with? 2 people. Adam and Hawa, right? Who we would call Adam and Eve. It's 2 people. And to begin with, Eve had 2 sons, Cain and Abel. And then, Seth, begotten by Adam. Sarah wanted children her whole life. It wasn't until she was in her 90s she got her firstborn. So who was chosen? The second son, who was Isaac. Now from Isaac came again 2 sons. And who was chosen? The second son. So that just represents production. Just like Sarah, just like Abraham and Isaac, they wanted children. They were waiting on children. They ended up with 2, and one was chosen out of that 2. So that boils down to a decision or a choice that has to get made. A decision or a choice that has to get made. 2 also represents decisions and also represents a division. 2 represents a decision, and it also represents a division. You understand? So that's that. And then what happened on the second day? The waters were divided. Yah divided the waters from above and the waters below. The waters were divided. So out of 2 comes a division. So if you see 2, it can mean a number of things. You just gotta, like I said in the last video, like I always say in these numerology videos, it depends on your current situation, which meaning is more relevant to you. So first we said balance, then we said production, then we said a decision or a choice, then we said division. But let's go back to production. I want to point this out straight up. Y'all told Noah to bring 2 of every animal into the ark, and after the flood, they produced and made the animals that we see today. So it's 2. You understand? It's 2. That's what that represents. You understand? 2 represents production. But on the second day, he divided the waters. You understand? What was the second commandment? Not to make any idols. In other words, do not produce an idol. Obviously, the second commandment had to have something to do with producing something, making something. Production. You understand? What did he make on the second day? He divided the water. That's division. Then what do we have with the second tribe, the second blessed tribe? It's not one tribe, it's Simeon and Levi. Every other time, only one tribe is mentioned, but with the second blessing, is two. With the second blessing is given to two tribes, right? But what does it say? It says that these two people will be divided in Israel. These two tribes will be scattered and divided throughout the nation. Doesn't two also represents division? Two also represents, simply put, Yah will provide. You understand? Two represents Yah will provide. Again, Abraham and Sarah, they wanted a baby, and Yah did provide, gave them two. So 333, what does it mean? I need to ask you, where do you find 3 in scripture the most? You find 3 in scripture whenever there's a new beginning. How many sons did Adam and Eve have that were mentioned in scripture? 3. So Noah was the new Adam, basically. How many sons did Noah have? 3. How many, what we would call the great patriarchs, do we have? How many people did Yah make the promise to that he was going to give the land of Canaan to Israel? 3 people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How many words makes up the name Yasrael? Yasrael. It's 3 words. It means he, Yah, he. Sarah means rulership. All means God. He rules with God, or he rules like God. Do you understand that? Or he prevails against God. What do we know about Cain, Abel, and Seth? What do we know about Ham, Shem, and Japheth? What do we know about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? What do we know about Yasharal? We know that these are all foundations. Speaking of that, 3 also represents a foundation. What did Yah make on the 3rd day? He made the earth out of the sea. Because there was just water, and in the water there was floating gold ions, and nickel ions, and iron ions, and all the atoms of the periodic table was just floating around in these waters. And he gathered all those atoms up and made dry land out of that. And the most water soluble compound, salt, dissolved off of that land, and that's why the water to this day is salty. But what is the earth to us? Now, the dry ground, what is that to us? It's our foundation. It's the very thing that we walk upon. It's our foundation. You understand that? Who is Jacob to us? Our foundation. Who is Abraham to us? Our foundation. Who is Shem to us? Our foundation. If you look at a scale, there's 3 parts to it. The left side of the scale, right side of the scale, and the fulcrum in the middle to keep it all balanced. That's why you have 3 nerves in the face. This is called the trigeminal nerve. It stems from the brain up into the eyes, nose, and the mouth. Who was our 3rd tribe? Levi was kind of like a foundation for Israel, because he connected us with Yah. He was our priest. You must understand that a foundation is simply an intercessor. What do I mean by that? Well, the foundation of a house is what intercesses, or what connects the house to the actual ground. The earth, being a foundation, is what connects us to existence in general. The fulcrum of a lever or balance, it is the foundation of the lever or balance, because it is what connects the lever or balance to the ground. Now, the trigeminal nerve, it controls the 3 major senses, the ones that's on the face. Now, these senses are what connects us to the outside world. Without being able to see, hear, taste, and smell, then we just simply would not be able to be connected to the outside world. The Levitical priest was a foundation for us, because they are what connected us to the higher power, Yah himself. So do you understand? Foundation is what connects something to something way bigger and something way more stable. You understand? It connects what you would call a otherwise non-stable object to a completely 100% stable object, to keep the non-stable object stabilized, basically. What's the third commandment? Do not lift up Yah's name in vain. In the English, it says, do not take Yah's name in vain. But if we read it in Hebrew, it's going to say, La Nasa, Yahuwah, Sham, etc., right? But Nasa means to lift up. So do not lift up Yahuwah's name in vain. You feel what I'm saying? So what's the opposite of taking Yah's name in vain? Prioritizing Yah. That's the opposite of taking Yah's name in vain. To prioritize him. So 3 could be telling you that you need to prioritize Yah. And because 3 also is a foundation, it could also be telling you that you need to be humble. Who was the most humble man on earth according to scripture? Moses. What tribe was Moses from? Levi. The most meek man on earth. 3 represents humility. The earth represents the base, which means the earth represents humility itself. You understand? 3 represents humility. So if you see in 3 to 3, it could mean new beginning in your life. It could mean that you need to build a foundation. It could mean that you need to prioritize Yah. It could mean that you need to build a foundation and prioritize Yah. Or it could mean that you need to be humble. But what more proof do I have? What's the number 3 letter in Hebrew? Gimel. Gimel is the G, right? It is basically, its numerical value is 3. And what does it mean? It means to lift up. You cannot lift a building up without a foundation, can you? No. Okay. But that's not even it. That's not even the deep part. Lift up is the same word that we see in the 3rd commandment. Do not lift up Yah's name in vain. I'm telling you guys, all this stuff is very connected. Here, I'm going to have to cross over into another level of Kohanology for a second. What the world calls chakras, which are really, could be called the fruits of the spirit or the chambers of the spirit, right? Or maybe even Jacob's ladder. You want to get into that. What chakra represents humility? The root chakra, which is the lowest chakra in the body, at the base of the spine. What organs are associated with the root chakra? If you're a man, it will be 2 testicles and a penis. And if you're a woman, it would be 2 ovaries and a uterus. So how many total organs is that in the root chakra, which is the base, the humility chakra? That's 3 organs total. Now let us deal with the number 4. 4 always represents time. Now why do I say 4 represents time? What was made on the 4th day? Sun, moon, and stars. You understand that? Sun, moon, and stars was made on the 4th day, and that's our calendar. That's what we use to tell time. That's clearly simple. What is the 4th commandment? 4th commandment is keep the Sabbath day holy. That's the only commandment that we have out of the 10 commandments that have anything to do with time, right? So, with that simply being said, 4 represents time. It also could represent a path. Because if we go into the language and look what alphabet is represented by the number 4, it's the dalet. The dalet is the D in our language, right? And the dalet means a door or a path, right? But the sun, moon, and stars, they all have their own path in the sky. And so do you. You have your own path. And if you allow the angels to help you with your path, you'll be successful. And if you allow Yahuwah to teach you his commands, you'll be prosperous in your ways. Now, who is the fourth tribe that was blessed by Jacob? Judah. And in Judah's name, in the middle of his name, there's the Dalet. His name revolves around the Dalet. Judah's blessing was Shiloh will come out of Judah. It says, until Shiloh come, which gives a sense of there will be a time, right, when Shiloh, which means Messiah basically, will come out of Judah. So that's alluding to a future thing, which is time, again. So that's what you have to understand. 4 always represents time, but the main thing that 4 represents is keep going. Keep going. All right. 4 could be telling you that you have enough time. 4 could be telling you that you're gonna have you have to keep moving. You just gotta keep doing what you're doing. You cannot give up. And 4 can be telling you that it's a struggle, but the end result is gonna be good. And let me explain that. Well, look at what 4 represents in scripture. And when I say 4, I'm also talking about the number 40 as well as 400. And when you combine different numbers, they all mean something. Well, y'all told Abraham, know for certainty that your offspring will be oppressed for 400 years. But afterwards, I will judge, and they will come out with great reward. So that's a 400 year, 4, right? 4 zeros, they don't really mean nothing, you know. In numerology, zeros don't really mean anything. So when we're dealing with 4, when we're dealing with 400, we're just dealing with 4. So 400 years, you will be oppressed. So that's going to be a struggle, but the end result is good. Just like it says, until Shiloh come, Judah will be oppressed and a lot of things will happen. But Shiloh will come. Messiah will come out of Judah in the gathering of the people. He will be the gathering. He will gather Israel. David will gather Israel from the 4 corners of the earth. How long did Israel actually stay in Egypt? Well, according to Exodus, it said 430 years. What did we just say 3 represent? Basically, 3 represents a foundation. Israel as a nation was founded in Egypt while they were being oppressed. The foundation of Israel was in Mizraim. But when you add the 4 with it, that represents a good result coming out of this struggle, with the foundation being made. How long did Jacob work for the wife that he wanted? 14 years. When you're dealing with 14, you're just adding 10 plus 4. 10, what I say in my last video, 10 represents work. He worked for 14 years. So yes, 10 represents work. Then the 4 represents struggle, but end result that's good. So Jacob was working, but his struggle made him have an end result that was good. And what was that? The 12 tribes being birthed. But how many wives did Jacob eventually end up having? 4. And they were bickering and fighting, and it was terrible. Now Jacob's whole life was a struggle with a good ending. If you think about it, he wrestled a man all night, and at the end he was blessed, literally. His name changed and everything. I said Yasara'al has 3 words, but how many syllables does it have? 4. How many years was Israel in the Exodus? 40 years. That was a struggle, but it was a good ending because we got into the land. Now, how many days did it rain on the earth during the flood? 40 days and 40 nights. That was a horrible thing, but the end result was good, because when Noah made it back to dry ground, there was no evil on the earth again into Nimrod. So Ham, Shem, and Japheth was on earth, and what happened 4 generations after Ham, Shem, and Japheth? Rebellion. And what happened 4 generations after that? Plague, and the earth divided. How many days did Moses go without eating or drinking anything? 40 days and 40 nights. And I'm pretty sure that was very painful for Moses to go through. However, the end result is Israel has 10 commandments that are amazing. How many days did Elijah walk through the wilderness to get to Mount Sinai? 40 days and 40 nights. When it comes to numerology, 4 is the most symbolic number that we can actually find in scripture. It simply is. And like I said, the dalet, which is represented by the number 4 in our language, it represents a path. We had a specific path that we went through in the wilderness for 40 years. You have 400 men with Esau coming to Jacob, and Jacob and his family were so afraid. But at the end, what happened? Esau gave Jacob a big hug. So that was a struggle with a good ending.